Karen Attiah worked at the Washington Post for 11 years. She's a big name at the paper. She was the founding editor for Global Opinions. She was recognized repeatedly by the bosses at the Post for her performance. Part of what she did was make the Washington Post a pretty much unparalleled U.S. newspaper source for commentary on international affairs. Karen Attiah, for example, was the editor for Jamal Khashoggi when Jamal Khashoggi was murdered by the Saudi government. For her relentless and brave commentary on Khashoggi's murder, Karen Attiah was given the prestigious George Polk Award. Karen Attiah was a really high-profile, really accomplished, really successful marquee talent at the Washington Post, which is why it was a shock when the Washington Post fired her last year in September, and they didn't even have the, choose your noun, to do it in person. They did it by email. They said in the email that she was being terminated for gross misconduct, specifically for her social media posts about the killing of activist Charlie Kirk. Karen Attiah posted these messages on social media about Charlie Kirk's death. At the time, she was paid by the Washington Post to offer opinions and analysis on current events. That is what she did after Charlie Kirk was murdered, including decrying what she described as essentially mandatory performative mourning, also decrying our unwillingness to address gun violence in America, particularly gun violence by white assailants. Her bosses accused her of violating company policy because they said her posts were disrespectful to white people, and they said she put other journalists at the paper in danger. And they fired her. At the time, Karen Attiah was the last remaining Black full-time opinion columnist at the Washington Post. Now, Karen Attiah was not the only person to lose a job over comments about Charlie Kirk's death. At our very own network, one of our contributors was fired over something he said on the air about Kirk's killing. A Reuters investigation estimates that at least 600 people all over the country in all kinds of industries lost their jobs for things they said after Charlie Kirk was killed. Like a lot of those people, Karen Attiah did not accept her firing. Along with her labor union, she filed a grievance with the Washington Post. After months of legal wrangling, the matter went to arbitration, and now the arbitrator has ruled. The arbitrator has ruled that there was no evidence to substantiate any of the reasons the Washington Post cited to fire Karen Attiah. The arbitrator has ruled that the Post must not only pay Karen Attiah lost wages and benefits, they not only have to give her all her back pay, but they must also give her back her job. The Post says it respects the arbitration process. Ms. Attiah says she is ready to get back to work. Joining us now is Karen Attiah, along with her lawyer, Norm Eisen, who co-founded the Democracy Defenders Fund, who helped represent her in this arbitration. I want to thank you both so much for being here. Karen, I know it's been an ordeal. Thank you in particular for being here with us tonight.
Thank you, Rachel. I'm really glad to be here.
What's your reaction to the arbitrator saying the Post has to give you your job back?
And I feel excited, exhausted, vindicated, proud. Of course, sure, I'm happy to get my job back, but this is more than me. It's more than just a job. I know that this is a huge win for journalists everywhere, for people who dare to have an opinion, for anyone who wanted to express themselves. I recognize that this win is bigger than just me. It's bigger than just the Washington Post. It stands as a proxy for our rights and freedom of speech here in America. So this is a big win for freedom of speech and democracy in America.
Norm, let me just ask you, as part of Democracy Defenders Fund, you're involved in a lot of cases involving this administration. In this case, this is not an administration case. This is about the Washington Post as it made its MAGA turn. There's been a lot of turmoil at the paper. It's been remade sort of as in a more right-wing cast. Tell me about your decision to devote resources from your firm toward working on this case.
Well, Rachel, we know that authoritarianism can't take hold without enablers of Donald Trump in and outside of the government. And that's why it's so important, because the First Amendment is foundational to protect our journalists. And when Karen asked if we were willing to support here. We felt it was imperative. And we think that this win, the ruling repudiating the phony bases for letting Karen go, calling out what in our view was anticipatory obedience, is a huge win for her. That's so important. But it protects journalists everywhere. It shows that the purpose of journalism, to stand up to the regime, is alive and well. And that's why it was important to us. In our over 300 legal cases and matters, this is one of the biggies.
Karen, I wanted to ask you, when I saw that you won this arbitration and that you were ordered, the arbitrator ordered not only that you got back pay, but that you got your job back, I thought to myself, if it were me, I don't know if I'd go back. Not only because of how you were treated, but because of the way the Post has been made over in your absence, remaking the opinion section, in many ways hollowing it out. Can you talk a little bit about your decision to go back and how you're feeling about that, given the changes at the paper and the way they have sort of set themselves opposite the administration?
Yeah, I've said this even from the beginning, even in arbitration. I stayed true to my values. I stayed true to journalism. I stayed true to speaking truth to power and giving other people a platform at the Post. It is very obvious that the Post has changed. It's taken a very, very different and, dare I say, darker turn. That is true. However, the way I feel about how I feel about this is I'm ready to get back. I'm willing and ready to get back to that work. And for me, that work is about serving readers. That work is about serving democracy. It's about representing communities. And that is the work I was doing at the Post, and that's the work I fully expect to be able to do. And so, hey, the Washington Post has got some marching orders. I'm waiting on them to hear from them. They said they're going to respect the decision, which means reinstating me back to my full position and my full duties. So that's the deal on the table. The ball's in their court.
We'll be watching and we'll be reading when you're back at your desk. Karen Attiah, columnist who's now been ordered reinstated at the Washington Post. Norm Eisen, co-founder of Democracy Defenders Fund. Thank you both for being here. I really appreciate you doing your first interview here. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, much more news ahead here tonight. Stay with us.
Patients who have sensitive teeth but also want whiter teeth, they have...
At the height of the pandemic, in 2021, a right-wing group called Moms for Liberty bolted into Florida politics. Moms for Liberty. They fought against COVID vaccines and mask requirements to slow the spread of COVID. They campaigned for book banning, banning certain books from school libraries. They worked with other right-wing groups to rewrite the rules about the history that Florida students were allowed to learn. Because was slavery really so bad? Moms for Liberty expanded to other states, but their center of power was always Florida, and in particular, school boards in Florida, where they ran for office repeatedly and won. Moms for Liberty dominated, for example, the school board in Sarasota County, Florida. They held 3 of the 5 seats, and it showed. On the Sarasota County School Board, Moms for Liberty accomplished a string of conservative culture war goals. Bizarrely, that all taking place even as the board chair and her husband, who was the chair of the Florida Republican Party at the time, they were fighting a long series of startling headlines about alleged sexual misconduct themselves. But no matter how weird it all got at a personal level and at a hypocrisy level, with their majority on the school board in Sarasota County, Moms for Liberty managed to pass book bans. They rejected protections for LGBT students. They pledged support for ICE agents in deporting students in Sarasota County schools. And it turns out what Moms for Liberty has been pushing for all this time turns out to be sort of unpopular with actual voters when people get a say on it. Last week, voters picked two Democratic-endorsed candidates over conservatives on the Sarasota County School Board. It is worth noting that registered Republicans outnumber registered Democrats by more than double in Sarasota County, Florida. But nevertheless, voters have now elected two candidates endorsed by Democrats and sent a third into a runoff right at the heart of Moms for Liberty, Florida. As a columnist for USA Today put it, quote, "This win is a great sign for Democrats. While the party often loses sight of the fact that all politics are local, the news that something has shifted, this news that something has shifted is a sign that voters are tired of the Republican-led culture wars and could be looking for a return to some sort of normalcy." Or as winning candidate Megan Tinneman told supporters on election night, quote, "We made history today." Joining me now is Megan Tinneman. She's one of the Democratic-backed candidates who won her Sarasota County School Board race this past week. Ms. Tinneman, congratulations on your win. Thanks very much for being here tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really an honor to represent Sarasota.
Oh, great. I just gave a little thumbnail sketch about what you just won and the context there. First of all, did I get any of that wrong? And is there anything else that our viewers should understand about what's been happening in Sarasota County and how big a deal it is that you won this seat?
Yes, so for the past 10 years, we have been under a conservative board majority, and this has been years in the making. So many organizations in our town, Support Our Schools, Sea Alliance, have really been educating voters and encouraging them to look past party lines. And I think it's also important to note, I'm actually an NPA. So we in Sarasota are primarily Republican. And this gives hope to the rest of the nation that across all sides of the aisle, Republican, Democrat, Independents, all came together for the common good of education. And I think that speaks volumes.
You won by a lot. You won by double digits in this race. I know that you campaigned on needing to get away from things like book bans and condemning the compliance with ICE resolutions and stuff. Do you think that there was a specific one of these culture war issues that you were really explicit on in your campaign? Do you think one of them in particular was what motivated your voters the most, that you think voters sort of wanted to reject the most from the other side, or was it everything altogether?
I really think at the end of the day, our voters just wanted an end to the culture wars and the political theater. We were known nationwide for all the wrong reasons.
One of the things that I noted in following your candidacy, and in particular looking at what happened on election night, was seeing how many kids were involved in the campaign, how many high school students, people who've literally got skin in the game in terms of who is on the school board and what decisions the school board is making, seeing kids door knocking, volunteering for the campaign, seeing the election night watch parties and your celebration surrounded by high school students who had been involved with trying to oust that conservative majority and get in people like yourself. Did that just happen organically, or was that you specifically trying to reach out to young people to get involved?
It really happened organically. I have two high school students, and when their friends found out that I was running for school board, I also have a lot of LGBTQ students who volunteered on my campaign. And for a very long time, they felt scared, not safe at school, unheard. So I really think once they saw a candidate who respected their voices and wanted to be on the school board as a voice for students, so many students came and supported all three of us. There was another woman running, Beth Mayberry, and Jimmy Glover, who didn't win the majority, but he's going on to a runoff in November. And all three of us just had so many students step up and really want to protect their rights.
Kids are all right, and they're all really all right with people who are listening to them. Megan Tinneman, winning candidate for school board in Sarasota County, Florida, which, as you say, nationwide famous for all the wrong reasons. But you're really part personally of turning that around. Thank you for your time tonight. Congratulations on your win and good luck.
Thank you so much.
All right, we'll be right back. Stay with us. A car race. If you ever are responsible for waving the green flag to start like an IndyCar race, I have only one piece of advice for you. Sort out in advance how to hold the flag. Because here's the President of the United States getting ready to start the race at the Freedom 250 Grand Prix held yesterday in Washington. Whoops, wrong end. Whoops, what is it's a flag on a stick. How hard can it be? Once he figured it out with some help, though he could not be stopped with the waggling and the waving. Off to the races, as they say. That race yesterday was the end of the America 250th stuff, the final event planned by the federal government for the nation's 250th anniversary. So what did we do for the 250th? We had the Trump birthday cage match, which did a lot of things, but the longest lasting consequence of that will probably be that it destroyed the grass on the ellipse. 4th of July itself, the president threw the sad Great American State Fair with its poopy fall-down staple gun wooden model of the arch he wants to build for himself. It really was sad and underwhelming, and it was supposed to feature musical stylings of people like one half of Milli Vanilli and Bret Michaels. But even those artists realized it would be headlining a Trump event, and so they started dropping out. I mean, you have to think about the fact that the lip sync guy from Milli Vanilli apparently thought he could not stand that kind of a reputational hit, and so he dropped out too. It also ended up being kind of dangerous. The Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy dancers on Trump's National Mall stage were nearly killed. That huge gold piece of the stage falling down on them. But that's it. It's kind of all we did. We're turning 250 years old. That's it. The performance of the federal government under this administration has generally not been awesome. But there is a specific reason it didn't feel like we did enough to commemorate our nation turning 250. And it may be because we really only did federal government stuff. Cities and towns, cities and localities could very well have done great stuff for the 250th. And in fact, cities and localities have been told in advance that they were going to get federal funding to hold their own local celebrations all over the country. But then at the last minute, Trump took all that funding away. He axed funding for local historical societies and local community groups to hold their own 250th stuff. Last year, just as they were starting to put together plans for the 250th anniversary, Trump yanked their money. And then the Trump administration redirected tens of millions of dollars from those cuts toward things like, quote, the president's plans for a triumphal arch and a statuary garden of American heroes in Washington, D.C.